What is up, Not So Pro Football Talk? We're back again with another video of course, our power rankings here for NSP. This is week 10. As always, we're going to get straight into this one. This one's going to be a little bit longer as I'm going to go through some of the weeks that we've done here for the power rankings videos. So basically, week 5 until now to week 10, kind of the midway point of where each team falls as the season goes along. So go straight into the grading criteria. Again, offensive grading is points scored, offensive efficiency, and strength of defensive matchup. On the defensive side, the complete opposite: points allowed, defensive efficiency, and strength of offensive matchup. So we'll go right into number 32 here. I'm going to have the Las Vegas Raiders. As you can see here on the screen, the Raiders have been through some turmoil. So starting week 5 at number 28, moving just 4 spots down, I guess, to the last spot. They've been down here in this area the entire season, basically, except for the beginning of the season when they actually had a little bit of hope. But yeah, it's just not a great season for the Raiders. I know that it's just going to keep getting worse for them as the season goes along. They do have a bye week this week, so maybe this week won't be too bad for them. Maybe they might go down to the 33rd ranked team, but of course, there's no 33rd team. So they're going to probably stay here at 32 for just one more week. And we'll see in week 11 if they can get a dub against who they're playing. Moving on to number 31 here, I have the New Orleans Saints. I mean, from week 5, pretty much from week 2, they've fallen from grace. 7 straight losses. That's a pretty tough thing to go through. In week 5, for me, when we started this first video here for NSP, they were number 13. They were looking good. Not too many injuries at that point in time. A couple of losses, a couple of wins, but overall, they've just plummeted. It's basically going to be a rebuilding year as they've pretty much gutted their roster. Again, they just sent away their best cornerback in Marshawn Lattimore. Again, just really getting rid of that whole entire draft besides Kamara. I don't think Kamara will get traded, so he might be the last one standing from that one draft that the Saints just absolutely hit on every single player almost. But for now, they're going to stay at 31, even though they do have a matchup that could maybe go in their favor, but most likely not. They're going to have the divisional rival here with the Atlanta Falcons. I think Atlanta is much better than them at this point in time. And New Orleans just needs to get through the season and get to the draft, get to, free agency period back out there after the season. This season is just a loss for them. Here at number 30, I'm going to have the New England Patriots. Again, they haven't really moved much, just like the Carolina Panthers didn't either. From 27 in week 5 to just 30 here, the only thing looking up is that Drake May is their quarterback now. So again, he's looking a lot better than most people would have thought him to look at this point in time. Even if he hadn't played yet, most people would probably have doubted him as being that pretty good rookie for the Patriots. He's pretty much their only bright spot here. Stevenson has resurged with him, but this team is still, looking to rebuild. They traded away some partners like Josh Uche to the Kansas City Chiefs, and of course, really not going for them here in the wins and losses here, as they do also sit at 2-7. They're going against the Chicago Bears this week. I think this could possibly be a win for them, as it's a rookie showdown between Caleb Williams and Drake May. But I also think that the Bears defense is pretty good. The Bears offense is also pretty good. And really, New England is just a tad bit below the Chicago Bears right now. I'd be surprised if they actually do get this win, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they get the upset. All right, so here at 29, I'm going to have the Carolina Panthers. Like I said with the New England Patriots, the Panthers haven't really moved up or down too much. Started at 25 in week 5 because of Andy Dalton, but now Bryce Young is their starting quarterback basically again. Really, they were trending down as Bryce was still the quarterback there, and then they had some light with Andy Dalton, but then again, they just figured we have to probably keep starting Bryce Young since Andy Dalton is dealing with some injuries. And I think they're going to stick with him the rest of the season, even if Andy Dalton is healthy. I think this is the best bet. You got to keep him out there, keep going through the growing pains, keep him having the ability to learn from his mistakes, going in there, watching film. You got to keep hyping him up. He's still a young guy. He's very, very young in comparison to a lot of these other rookies that have just gotten drafted themselves. I believe he's even younger than some of these guys from the 2024 NFL draft. So sitting at 29, it's not the worst, but it is also not the best. They've gutted their roster as well. Pretty much Xavier Legette and Jatavian Sanders are the main guys there. Of course, they also have Brooks and Chuba Hubbard, but again, this roster is just depleted defensively. They've been depleted. So I don't see it going too well for them this season. I think they're going to continue to lose, and that's okay because this is a rebuild. But going against the New York Giants is probably another time they could possibly sneak in a win there. But at this point in time, I don't think they'll win. I think the New York Giants have a lot going for them, more than the Carolina Panthers after they just gutted themselves, like I said. So, again, Panthers most likely will be continuing to trend down. But as you can see throughout the year, nothing has really changed. Alrighty, next I'm going to have the Tennessee Titans here at 28. Again, as you can see the graphic, they haven't really moved up and down too much. Their worst is 31, their best is 26. So they're right there in the middle at 28. Pretty much you're going to see with a lot of these teams, the areas that they've moved down, they're kind of settled now at the middle of the season, almost directly in the middle for every single case. There are some special cases where they have moved extremely down or extremely up, kind of like hinting at the New Orleans Saints here, who started at 13, but ended pretty low there at 31. So there are some outliers, but these power rankings really started off in a good place for me. I think I've done pretty well, but the Titans, on the other hand, have not. They were expected to be a better team than ranked 28th in the power rankings for me. But, of course, that roster is also not the best roster. Can't really hope for anything, as they also have gutted everybody as they traded DeAndre Hopkins away to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they continue to deplete this offense and just hit the restart button again every single year, trading their best wide receiver, trading one of their best defensive guys. It's just an instantaneous loop. Sorry, Ray, that you have to deal with this, but I do believe the Titans just do not draft well. They do not fit pieces well together in trades or free agency. Again, they're just kind of trying to pick these guys, who's good, who might fit. Maybe we'll get one of these older guys, and that's just not what you need to do. You need to just bite the bullet, get young, draft a bunch of young guys, trade the guys that are older on, expiring contracts or big contracts, and just start from the ground and go up because you're not too far away from the ground. But this week, the Titans are going up against the Chargers. I see the Chargers winning here by a good amount. Chargers defense is really good. Offense is getting better. Tennessee, I cannot say the same for. Sitting at 2-6, I do believe this is going to be another loss for them, and they are going down to 2-7, just like a couple of guys here in this area. Next here at 27, I'm going to have none other than the New York Giants. As you can see on the graphic again, this team really hasn't moved up or down. Started at 26. Highest was 24, but back down again to 27 for the past 2 weeks. I don't think this team is going to get much better. I do think the pieces that they have with Tyron Tracy, Malik Neighbors, and a few other guys on the defensive and offensive side that they drafted this past year are doing fairly well for them. But again, just like the Titans, I think they're getting a little bit caught up in, having those guys on big contracts, not wanting to give up on the season and rebuild. I think it's time. Really, I don't know how much they're going to get better. Their wide receivers are kind of on a rotation. Malik Neighbors is the only new guy that's probably going to stay there. But really, they let go of a lot of people, and then they just keep coming back to New York. And it's just a flip-flop. But they did some good stuff here in the 2024 free agency period after the 2023 season. And of course, like I said, they drafted well. So hopefully this is going to get them going into that direction of making right choices. And hopefully the Giants will become a good team again, like we saw when they were under Eli Manning. But for now, Giants still stink, and I think that this week won't change anything or make anything different because they are going against the Carolina Panthers. I think this one's going to be a really, really bad game over there in Germany, but the New York Giants should still get the win, and I don't think they'll move up too much, even though they should win this game. Again, Carolina is just not ranked very highly for me, and I don't think that New York will go up more than 2 spots when it's all said and done. Alrighty, here at 26, I'm going to have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've risen from the 32nd spot when I first did these videos in week 5. At 26, it's not too bad. Some people may have expected a little bit worse from them. Many might have said they expected a little bit more, considering the type of roster that they had built. But with injuries, with unsuccessful players making a difference here in this roster, Gabe Davis, it just turns out like that. So the Jacksonville Jaguars are still kind of rebuilding, I could say. They have a lot of great pieces on the offensive side, on the defensive side as well. But then again, I think it just has to do with progression with coaching, getting the right system implemented 100%. And of course, some of these guys just don't come to play every Sunday. So again, they just have to follow the program. I think Doug Peterson being there is their best benefit for Trevor Lawrence and that Jaguars team to find some success. But I still think it's going to take 1 to 3 more years for them to actually start being a competitor, to get back to the playoffs like they did a couple years before Trevor Lawrence. But again, I don't think this is the time for them, but they're not doing too bad. Alrighty, at 25, I'm going to have the Cleveland Browns. This is another team that I thought was going to continue to be bottom of the barrel, but Deshaun Watson getting hurt was probably a godsend for the Browns. Now they have Jameis Winston. I know that he just took a huge fat L to the Chargers this past week, but next week should be a lot easier for them. They have a bye week, and of course, everybody needs that bye week to kind of recoup, get everybody healthy 100%, and get on with the rest of the season. So I think this is the perfect time for Cleveland as they are 1-1 under Jameis Winston. Had one great game against the Ravens, upset, and then had one horrible game against another great defense in the Chargers. So I think they need to regroup, see how this season is going to turn out. It's probably not going to be a huge success, but I still think it's salvageable. I do think that they can still develop the players that they have, and I think they are on a better trajectory than the teams that I've just recently talked about. So again, this is a team that I'm looking forward to seeing as long as Jameis Winston is the starter. But once Deshaun Watson comes back, because he is going to come back, this team is just going to go back to what they're used to. And sadly for Browns fans, that's going to be losing. Here at 24, this is probably a surprise team for a lot of us, unless you're a part of NSP, because you know this is what's going to happen for some years to come, the way this organization is going. And that's the Dallas Cowboys. When I started these videos, I think I hit it right on the nail. 23 in week 5, and now in week 10, they're sitting at 24. Have some decent wins here and there, but a lot of tough losses, a lot of bad losses where this offense and defense just look totally discombobulated. So again, the Cowboys and Jerry Jones need to figure out what they want to do with this offense, with this defense, with this organization as a whole. They really didn't hit anything in free agency and the draft as of what they needed. They replenished in a lot of places that they were kind of already strong in. And of course, that's always good to see if some of those hit so that you can have the next man up mentality. But you also need some guys to help out CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Ferguson, because really you didn't have too much. No running back, no secondary and tertiary wide receivers, no depth at the wide receiver position that was actually going to make a difference. I know Brandon Cooks got hurt early on, But really, how good was Brandon Cooks going to be on this offense, as they have been having some O-line troubles lately? And then don't even get me started on the defense. I could talk a whole bunch more about the Cowboys, but I really don't want to. Again, I think this team is going to be down here in the bottom 12 teams for a while. The Cowboys really need to reassess. Jerry Jones needs to reassess. And of course, is Dak Prescott even the answer for the Cowboys? Or do they go younger with Trey Lance, or maybe even draft in this next draft? Alrighty, so here at 23, I'm going to have none other than the New York Jets. They started off at 15 because I actually did have some high hopes for this team to actually be a mediocre to good team this year. But as we've seen, a lot of losses back to back to back to back. And then finally, a rugged win against the Texans this past week. It wasn't the best showing for them, but a dub is a dub, so I have to give them credit where credit is due. This next week, they're going to go against the pesky Arizona Cardinals. They've been getting a lot of wins against some teams that, again, I didn't think they would beat. But the fall from grace here for Aaron Rodgers and this team, trading away Mike Williams as he was just irrelevant on that offense. They got Devontae Adams. Garrett Wilson is looking much better. I think there's some upside here. I do think they have the possibility of upsetting the Cardinals here, because I do think that the Cardinals should be the ones that are going to be favored here. As of right now, they're favored by 1 point on most betting apps, but it could go either way. This is basically a toss-up, gimme play, and I don't think that it's going to be too hard for the Arizona Cardinals to beat the Jets. But again, the Jets have some upside going into these next few games. I wouldn't say next season. I think right now, sitting at 23, this is kind of going to be the area they're going to be at. I think the highest they can get for this year is maybe 16. I don't see them making the playoffs. I don't see them having a resurgence type of season in the back half of the 2024-2025 season. I think right now they're playing for draft positioning to try to get somebody to help out this team at some point. Again, like I said in past videos, this team is just very old, and I think they need to get younger. At 22, I'm going to have the Indianapolis Colts. Joe Flacco, I don't know what the issue is here. Joe Flacco has been playing pretty well, but Anthony Richardson should be the guy starting out there. I know there's this whole fiasco of him pulling himself out of the game because he was tired. He hasn't been playing the best, but you drafted him at this position. You might as well try to get a full season with him under center. No matter how bad the growing pains are, we just saw Joe Flacco get absolutely just crushed this past week against Minnesota. So I really don't know what the Colts are expecting here if they're trying to make the playoffs, because they are 4-5. But again, the AFC is very competitive. I don't think sitting at 4-5, you're going to get those last few spots into the playoffs there. But you never know. Colts could go on a run here. Their division is not the best, so they could get some easy chump wins there. But even then, I don't believe in this team to make the playoffs. I think Anthony Richardson should be out there. They're going against Buffalo this next week, and I don't think this is the area where they start winning. I think it's going to be a rough game, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco. I would rather have Anthony Richardson out there just to see what you have in the guy, even though he hasn't shown much. But I feel like he gets better and better just a little bit each game. And that's what you want from a rookie. As Reed always says, 3 to 4 years is the best way to judge a quarterback. This guy has really only been in the league less than 1 year, even though he got drafted last year. But again, injuries kind of dwindled his season, hasn't really been under center too long. I think they just need to give him more time. Alrighty, here at 21, probably the team that I did not think was going to be here. But when I started these videos, they were at number 31 for me. That's the Miami Dolphins. They've moved up to number 21. I think that's really good progress. But again, the record says differently. I don't think this team is going to make the playoffs, even if they continue to win. They just have a lot of tough teams to come up on their schedule. And right now is really not the time to be losing. This past week, I think if they would have beaten the Bills, I think it would have given them a good shot to kind of make their way back. But sitting here at 2-6, as of going into week 10, it's not looking good. So again, they sit at the bottom of their division here, right next to New England. I think they're playing worse than New England at this point in time. Of course, a lot of close losses, but they just can't close things out. Again, the Bills are a great team, but going against the Los Angeles Rams this week is probably going to be one of those other games that just turns out the way it did last week. Uh, Miami can be good, but right now, Hill, Waddle, Achan just really can't get things going throughout the entire game. They look good in the beginning, they start to dwindle off in the second half. They look bad in the beginning, they're just too late in the second half. So again, it's just trying to keep them consistent the entire game is what's really troubling this team. And of course, really putting some blame on the defense here. They played great whenever Tua was not there, but as soon as Tua got back, this team just totally switched up. I don't really get it. So again, the full team is not putting their full effort in there. I think it is getting a little bit colder, so maybe that is affecting their play. But then again, we still haven't even hit the coldest part in this season. So I think Miami just needs to figure something out. I think they also need to get younger because right now they're looking a little bit old in some areas, and that's probably what's affecting their play. I really do think they need to focus on the defensive side and, of course, the offensive line. If they can continue to progress those, I think later in the next season, they might come back and actually be a contender this year or next year. But this year, I really think their shots of making playoffs are pretty low. Less than 5% for me, at least. But I could see it. But against the Rams here this week, I possibly think this is going to be another loss. All right, so sitting here at 20, I'm still going to have my Seattle Seahawks here. I really didn't see anything all that could change my mind to move them up or move them down. It was a close loss to the Rams. The Rams got everybody back healthy. It was great for them. I'm glad for them, but our defense looked good in the first half. Second half, we kind of let up too many points, in my opinion. Of course, even in overtime there. Wasn't the best game for me, but I kind of saw the writing on the wall as soon as it got into overtime. I knew we weren't probably going to be able to stop them like we wanted to, but the offense is just going through some troubles here that we really can't finish in the red zone. And really, I don't know what's going on there with Connor Williams in our center and Geno Smith. They just aren't on the same page with the snaps. I mean, already 4 to 5 times where the snap just sails over Geno's head or he's not paying attention. I really don't know what's going on, and they need to get that fixed now. We need to be more disciplined. Mike McDonald needs to set something straight on that offensive side because right now, Grubb, the offense looks good. JSN looks good. DK Metcalf looks good when he's healthy. But we have to keep it consistent. We have to keep Geno accountable. Even though our O-line is very bad, we've seen Geno play very well. So again, we need to get back to those quick passes. Opening up the running lanes just a little bit more as they respect the quick pass. And then we can start throwing the ball down the field later on in the game. But really, we need to be a dink and dunk type of offense. We have the guys to do it. But whenever we just wait too long, there's always too many holding calls. There's always too much pressure on Geno. And really, I could go on and on here, but the Seahawks haven't really showed me that they're going to be a winning team. So right now, I think we are going to continue to lose, specifically not this week because we are on a bye, but maybe next week against the 49ers. It's going to be a really tough game. It's going to be over there in 49ers Stadium, Levi Stadium. So again, we'll see with McCaffrey back if he does end up playing how well this game could go for the 49ers. But for now, Seahawks are going to sit at 20, and I just hope we get some stuff figured out during this bye week. Alrighty, so here at 19, I think I hit this one right on the nail in the beginning of the season. I have the Chicago Bears here. During week 5, they were at number 17. They jumped up a little bit because of some decent play with Caleb Williams and the defense there. But as we've seen them play some more tougher competition, they dwindled back down to this area where 17, 19 currently. I think this is where they'll stay. Caleb Williams still needs a lot to learn in this league. He's been looking pretty rough against these tougher teams, and the scoreboard has been showing it. So the Bears still need a lot to work on. They have a great roster. Wide receivers, running backs, tight ends all have great talent, but Caleb Williams needs to match their talent. And right now, he's not. He's still young, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he will continue to progress. He'll continue to learn, and he'll continue to get better. But that defense won't be together for much more longer. So we really need Caleb Williams to get going soon, hopefully by the end of the season, so that next year he has majority of his defense still there that can hold the opponents to low scoring, and he can run up the points, and then they'll continue to win. But right now, this division is tough, so I understand why he keeps losing to some of these teams. But there's also some teams that he should be beating, especially with the way the defense is playing. I think the Bears have a lot of kinks to work out, and we'll see if there's a head coaching change there by the end of the season. All right, this one is probably my favorite because I hit it right on the nail here. The Bengals at number 18. Week 5, I had them at number 18. They've risen and fallen here and there, but they made their way back to number 18. It's really the defense for me. The offense is looking spectacular. They've been getting some good quality wins, but they're against bad teams. So that's the only reason that I'm knocking on them here and why they're back at number 18. This week should be a good test for them. I believe it is the second time that they're playing Baltimore this year. So again, this is going to be a close game. It's going to be interesting there in Baltimore. If Baltimore continues to play like they are playing, I don't think Cincinnati has a chance of winning here. I think this one could be further apart than we think. I know they're past like 4 or 5 games. Mostly all of them have been within one score. So I know Baltimore is favored by 6 right now on most platforms. But I think they could possibly win by more. Cincinnati's defense is just pretty bad. Joe Burrow and company will keep up with the Baltimore Ravens as best as they can, but really without the defense they need at this point in time, I really don't think it's going to go well for them. So I think I'm going to have to possibly take Baltimore against the spread, even though it is quite large, but we'll see as Thursday is tonight. Watch NSP Live with AJ and Reed here. It's going to be fun. I think this is one of the best Thursday night football games, so hopefully it lives up to the hype. But for right now, I think I'm going to have Baltimore winning, but I might change my mind later. Alrighty. Here at number 17, I'm going to have the Denver Broncos. They have been playing well. Bo Nix has superseded my expectations of him. I did not think he was going to be a great quarterback like he is playing right now. I thought he was just going to be good. I thought he was going to be possibly a top 3 quarterback out of this past draft. But I think right now he's sitting kind of at number 2 for me, behind Jaden Daniels. So again, like I said, superseded my expectations. He's playing well. It just looks good. The defense looks good there. The offense is running. Cortland Sutton is finally resurging back to what we used to know him as. So again, sitting at 17, I think the Denver Broncos are going to be the first team that I think could continue to move up throughout the season. Again, just some tough losses against Baltimore like they did this past week. But they have another tough matchup again, and I think this is what really stinks, but is really a good test for Bo Nix and company there. Kansas City. It's going to be a tough one, in my opinion. I think they can keep up since everybody's kind of been keeping up with Kansas City. This one could be close. I know Kansas City is favored by a lot of points, but I think I might choose Denver here to cover. They have a good defense just like Kansas City does, and I think Bo Nix and company can compete against the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to get the win, of course, but you just never know. These games are really close with Kansas City, so I wouldn't put it past Denver to go ahead and get the sneaky win here like they have a few times this season so far. So we'll see what happens. But on Sunday, it should be a good one at the 12 o'clock slate. I think I'm looking forward to this one. Alrighty, cracking into the top 16 here, I'm going to have the LA Chargers. I think they're looking better and better each week. Again, they started off at 19 for me in week 5, and they progressively made their way to where they are now at 16. I think they are one of the better teams here in the NFL. I still think they're getting to their peak, so they might be peaking at the right time going into the stretch before playoffs. But we'll have to wait and see. This team is very young on the offensive side of the ball. So I really do like that. Besides a few outliers there, like at the running back position, the O line, but really, they really don't have too many guys that are holding them down. So I think this benefits them. I think Lad McConkey finally doing something this past week. It was pretty dang good. So that's something in the right direction for the Chargers. I do think this week is going to be an easy dub for them. Sorry, Rave, but against the Titans, I think the Chargers will definitely win, move up to 6-3, and really contend to try to make the playoffs here, as they are under the Chiefs, who are perfect at 8-0. It is what it is. But I think the Chargers can be pretty good with Harbaugh there. So again, he has a lot of tenure at a lot of places. He's seen a lot of schemes. He knows how to run a team. So that's what I like about this. I did kind of bash on the LA Chargers not being a good team before the season, but they've proven me wrong. So I'll eat my words here. I think the Chargers are going to be A-okay. Don't think this is a year that they're going to contend for winning a playoff game, but I do think they can get there and they will be competitive. So it's looking good for the Chargers. Hopefully they can keep it up. Now here at 15, I'm going to have another LA team. That's the Rams. Started at 24 for me in week 5 because of all the injuries. But I knew this team could be sneaky and come back and get into the top 16. And I do still think they'll continue to climb. I don't know if they'll make it into the top 10 one of these days because they do have a tough matchup. They're in the NFC West, so every game that they play against a divisional rival is going to be tough, like it was this past week against Seattle. But going into this next week, they do have a high-powered offense on Monday Night Football. That's against the Dolphins. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to be looking forward to doing this one. Reed and I will be there, so it should be a fun one. But LA just needs to keep going with the offense there. Keep feeding Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. You got Kyron Williams, so you use them as much as you can as well to keep the defenses honest. And I think that's their best way to continue to win games. I do think they should win this game. It's going to be a close one for sure, but it should be great. Tua and company there aren't looking the best. I think that the Chargers are looking a tad bit better than them, so I think that'll give them the edge to get the win this week. And here I'm going to have another NFC team at number 14. It's going to be the Arizona Cardinals. But yeah, the third team of the NFC here, finally cracking into the top 16 themselves. When I started this off for the power rankings, week 5, they were at 21, have climbed their way up 7 spots. Really, it was a tough crawl up. They've had some pretty decent company that they've played up against. So I really do think the Cardinals can be a contender. But then again, I really don't know if they're going to be that true contender going into the playoffs if they can make it. This team is decent. They do have some holes on both sides of the ball, but I still think they are running their offensive schemes well. Kyler Murray continues to play above expectations most of the time. And really, at this point in time, this is where we see him falling. So hopefully, he can be pretty consistent and give the Cardinals a shot this year. And even this week against the New York Jets, it's not going to be a rollover game. So this is going to be another test for them. I do think they should win this game because I don't believe in the Jets as much as I do in the Cardinals. But then again, I could be totally wrong. Jets defense is pretty good. They're getting better and better. Offense is getting better and better. I think it's going to be tough for the Arizona Cardinals to keep up, but I think they have the possibility of doing it. So, Arizona, let's see if you can keep it up. See if you can stay atop the NFC West. Alrighty, here I'm going to have a Texas team, and I've already talked about the Cowboys. So, at number 13, I have the Houston Texans. They started off at 14 for me in week 5, and they've climbed their way into the top 10 twice, but then again, they always just seem to climb their way out. I think this is where they kind of belong, right outside the top 10, but not too close to 16. So again, right in the middle is the sweet spot for them. They have a great team, but there's just something not clicking to where they were playing at last year. So CJ Stroud had a great rookie year, sophomore slump, I guess you can call it. But even the defense, too, is not playing up to par. They're letting up a lot of points, even though they have a very similar defense. Few injuries here and there, and we've seen it mostly in the wide receiver core, as well as a little bit on the defensive line. But Texans are still good. I think they'll continue to be good. They should make the playoffs there in their division. They are winning it right now, and I don't think anybody will contend against them. So this week might be their biggest test as they do face up against my number one team in the Detroit Lions. So it's going to be their best one at home. I think Detroit will win this game, but if Houston can keep it honest, keep it close, I think this is another step in the right direction, even though it will most likely be a loss. But losing against the Detroit Lions is not a knock for me. Of course, it's an L, but it's most likely an expected L. So really, you just want your team to get a little bit of momentum going into the next few games. And this one on Sunday night should be competitive, but I still think Detroit will end up winning. So Texans, keep your gas on the pedal. Keep going there with D'Amico Ryans. I think you guys have a great future. So here at number 12, I'm going to continue to have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did lose against Kansas City this past week, but I really don't think that would determine them moving down out of the top 12 at least. It was a tough loss into overtime, Monday Night Football. The Buccaneers are also very injured. So Kansas City, how really good are you? No, I'm just kidding, guys. They are very good, but the Buccaneers are also pretty good, even with the depletion of their wide receivers, the depletion of a few offensive linemen and a few defensive linemen there as well, too. But they're still competing. So I like this team. Baker Mayfield really has a chip on his shoulder. He plays well. He did everything he could. The defense did everything they could. It was just a great game by the Chiefs. So I'm not going to have them moving down here. I think they could find their way back into the top 10 this season, but we'll have to see. They have to get through San Francisco this week first. It is going to be a tough game there. They have it at home, so it is a little bit of an advantage, but the 49ers might have McCaffrey back. That might be the difference there to give them the loss, but we'll have to wait and see. Should be another good one. I'm looking forward to seeing this one. I will hope that the 49ers lose, but I don't know. Tampa Bay, I think you guys will keep it very competitive for sure, so I might have you guys on the spread. Alrighty, here at number 11, I'm going to have the Philadelphia Eagles. They started this journey off for me at 22 when they were looking pretty dang rough. They had to have that continuation from last season of playing bad games, but we kind of always knew as soon as they got 100% healthy, everybody was back into the scheme, they might make their way back up to being a great team. And they have the past 3 weeks. I mean, 3 straight dubs. That's what shows it. They're in the top 12 now. They're almost in there for the top 10. I think they have the possibility of doing it. They have the Cowboys this game, and I think they should romp on them. If they continue to show me great offense, Saquon going insane, possibly giving us another Hall of Fame highlight reel, I think I might put them in the top 10 this week. But for now, they're going to sit at 11 here. I do think they have a bright future with all the guys that they have there. It's going to be great. This offense is stellar. Defense continues to show up here and there. These cornerbacks and safeties for the Eagles are looking pretty dang good. So I'd like to see more of it. I do think the Eagles will get into the playoffs no matter what, whether they win their division against the Commanders or if they tie and get second place, basically. We will see them in the playoffs, and I think I'm going to be looking forward to that. Alrighty, here at 10, I have another bird team, but it's the Atlanta Falcons. They've pretty much been around this area the entire season for me. Starting in week 5, as you can see there, they were at number 12, and they've slowly kept themselves in the top 10 ever since then. I think they're a great team. They really haven't lost too many games except to my Seahawks. But even then, they're just playing well. So I will continue to see the Falcons as being a great team. I will eat my words here. I did say that they were not going to win their division, but it's looking like they should. Really, the only team that is going to rival them is Tampa Bay, and they also have a very tough schedule. So it's going to be hard for them to make up those 2 games against Atlanta, but I think it's possible. I still think Atlanta will continue to put their foot on the gas pedal, and they have New Orleans next, which is going to really help them keeping that lead because New Orleans is just so depleted. Of course, it is a divisional game, so anything can happen. But at this point in time, I don't think New Orleans really has too much to offer, as they've also gotten rid of Marshawn Lattimore, kind of continuing to get rid of other people. And of course, a lot of injuries are riddling them. The most injured team in the NFL at this point in time, even more than the Niners, which is pretty crazy. So, Atlanta, I think you guys will continue to be winning. We should see you in the playoffs. Pretty dang sure about it. But unless there's a catastrophic fallout here, uh, I think Atlanta is a great team. Alrighty, here at number 9, I also will give myself a pat on the back here for selecting this one and for being very accurate. They started at number 9 for me in week 5 after I saw how great Jaden Daniels was playing, and he's continued to play great as they've been in the top 10 ever since then. Just like the Atlanta Falcons, this team has been very steady, getting great wins. They're sitting at 7-2, which is history for them. They haven't had such a great record in the past 30 years as an organization, and I really love to see it. I know a few Commanders fans who were fans since way back then, so Mr. B, if you ever watch this video, shout out to you, sir. But as they sit here at number 9, the Commanders look great on defense. They could be a lot better, of course, but with the guys that they have, they're playing very well. But of course, on offense, we've seen what we've seen from Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson, and Eckler as well, whenever Brian Robinson can't really go. So this team has really pieced themselves together under new management, under new coaching. It's all fitting in. And this is probably what every organization would want to happen to them. You draft a great quarterback, you get a new head coach that's great, has great knowledge, has a great culture set up, and then you get a new organizational owner that also has a good head on his shoulders, unlike your last owner. So the Commanders, I'm very excited to see them continue to do great. I really want to see them and how they play in the playoffs because they are a very scary team. And I think they will continue to be a scary team, even this week. They do play up against Pittsburgh, which is going to be a tough matchup, but I think this is a great test for Jaden Daniels, going against one of the best defenses, one of the best defensive lines there. So we'll see how this game turns out as it is in Washington. I'm going to have this one on one of my screens there in the Octabox for the red zone for sure. But Washington, I hope you guys put up a great game because I would love this game go down to the wire. Alrighty, here at number 8, it was coming. Yes, guys, I'm going to have the 49ers here. It was their bye week this past week, but they've been playing great. They're getting healthier. I think they deserve to move up since some of the teams that were ahead of them moved down. So the 49ers, I really don't want to say too much nice things about them, but they are getting healthier. McCaffrey should be back. It's going to be great for some of my fantasies and possibly very bad for some of the other ones because I will possibly be facing them within the next few weeks. So I'm not happy about that as he gets healthier possibly and gets going. But here against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think they should win this game. I think it's going to be a close fought one, like I said when I was covering the Bucs. But it should be a win as long as McCaffrey is healthy. Of course, you have Brandon Ayuk out. You have a couple other guys riddled up and kind of injured there, but they keep coming back to play every single week, which is great for you. So I think Purdy, as he has his new number 1 wide receiver in the backfield, it should be going well for the offense there as long as the defense can hold up. I think this team should be winning a lot more games going forward, and I really don't like it. Now here, back to back, I'm going to have the other NSP team for us. It's going to be the Packers at number 7. And again, I'm glad to say week 5, I had them at 7. Week 10, they've turned out to be at 7 again. It just always comes back, guys. But of course, the Packers had a tough loss against the Lions. Their real first test against a very highly ranked team. You could say it was against the Vikings as well. But then again, I don't think those two teams were playing their best football. And really, the Packers did not play their best football today either. But they finally saw the sleeping giant that has awoken there in Detroit. And I got to say, kind of liked watching it. But the Packers are still a menace in the NFC, a menace in the NFL. As soon as Jordan Love starts cleaning up his act and not throwing these risky balls, at least, I think they will be better with the turnover ratio. Their defense is playing well, even though they did get rid of some pieces there on the defensive side, which I'm pretty sure Reed's not happy about. I still think this is a contending team for sure, but really we'll see what they can do this year. I don't know if they're championship caliber yet, but I really can't be talking with how my Seahawks are playing as well. But the Packers do have a good shot at it. So we'll see what they can do this year. Alrighty, here at 6, I will eat my words again with this team. The Steelers, they continue to be great. This was their bye week as well, since it was the 49ers bye week, but they see themselves moving up. I think it's very good for them to move up because they did trade for Mike Williams, and I think that could possibly benefit them just a little bit. We've seen Van Jefferson go off a few games with Russell Wilson. Now he gets Mike Williams. It's a big target, really good for down the field, as we know that Russell Wilson and his moon ball can get out there. So again, this might help them make a difference. If not, I still think the Steelers will continue to win with what they have in Najee Harris and Pickens, and of course Freiermuth when he's healthy. I think this is a team to contend with as long as they have the defense that they have, and of course the great coach. I mean, he's the reason why they keep winning, and I mean, I don't see it slowing down. So Steelers are going to stay at number 6 here for me. They do go up against the Washington Commanders here. This is probably one of their best offenses that they're going to go against. I won't say that because I know they've gone against some great offenses already, but I think this is a possibility that they lose here. Washington has a lot going for them. They just upgraded on the defensive side too, so Russell Wilson might have a little bit more trouble. But we'll have to wait and see. This is going to be a great game in the 12 o'clock slate. Like I said, this one will be on my TV, and I'm looking forward to it. Alrighty, here, guys, at number 5, I'm going to have a team that has been very good since I've started making these videos. At week 5, they were at number 2. Now, at week 10, the Vikings are at number 5. So I really like how this team has been playing. I think they're not playing their best football as of these past 3 weeks, as we've seen them take 2 losses after their early bye week, which is very odd. Usually teams come out invigorated and get a couple of dubs, especially at this caliber of a team, but they've done the opposite. Will this affect them long term? I'm pretty sure it will, as that division over there is getting pretty spicy. So the NFC North is possibly going to have 3 teams in the playoffs this year, as long as the Vikings and Packers can keep up with the Lions and the rest of the NFC. As of right now, I think they can do it, but the Vikings need to play a lot better football. This past week was not their best week, but going into this next week against the Jaguars, it should be a pick-me-up week. They should get this dub easily, in my opinion. But then again, they could play down to the Jacksonville Jaguars and make this a tough one. So hopefully they can continue to stay healthy. Jordan Addison has been fairly well. Justin Jefferson, of course, is playing great. Aaron Jones, of course, I really like him there in purple. He's doing good for this team. I hope that he can continue to do so for fantasy purposes. And, of course, just for his legacy. So Minnesota, I think you should win this game. I think you should win a couple more games after this and continue to contend for the NFC North, I guess, divisional championship. They could possibly still win this division. It's going to be interesting. But then again, the Packers could also still win this division too. So it's going to be great to see. But as of now, Detroit is the monster sitting on top. And I think the Vikings should come out in second. But we'll see this week if they can get the dub against Jacksonville. If they don't, things are looking pretty bad there in Minnesota. Alrighty, here at 4, I really feel much better that I had the Bills sitting at number 1 before all of this, because they've consistently been in the top 6 this entire time for me. Week 1, like I said, started at number 1 and they instantly dropped. It was just so funny to see because I'm pretty sure a lot of you in the comments were just like, Vince, really? You had them at number 1? Come on, man. But they've continued to win since then. So again, the Bills are something that you shouldn't really toy with. Of course, this week they're going to go against the Indianapolis Colts. So this is going to be a tough game for them. But I have them moving down to 4 here because their last win was just not a good quality win, you know. They did beat up on the Titans, but it was expected. I kind of had them winning by a lot more, if that's even a thought there, as they won by 14, I believe. But I still think they could win by more here against Indianapolis Colts, who are kind of struggling to get the offense going under Joe Flacco. And I think if they can continue to get pressure on the teams that they play, they will continue to win. So again, the tough dub there against the Miami Dolphins, but a dub is a dub. So I have them here in the top 5, and I think the Bills will continue to be a force in the AFC. Alrighty, here at number 3, I'm gonna have the Baltimore Ravens. I think they are worthy of this spot just because of how great they've been doing on offense. I mean, this past week was a great game for them. Going into this next week, I think it should be another great game for them as well. It's going to be high scoring on Thursday Night Football tonight. 6-3 versus the 4-5 Cincinnati Bengals. I think Baltimore should get the dub here. Again, is it going to be by much since most of their matchups are pretty close in score? I don't know. I'm still iffy on if I want to pick the Ravens against the spread or if I want to go with the Bengals to cover. We'll have to wait and see. I have a few more hours before I make my final decisions. But as you're watching this right now, I do believe the Ravens are a championship contender this year, like they have always been, basically. But really, it's just if they're going to make it in the playoffs. Of course, you know, as they get into those runs, it's hard for them to kind of get it going in the playoffs. But now that they have Derrick Henry, they have no excuse not to run the ball. They have no excuse to pass it heavily, as they do have a lot of options with Zay Flowers, Deontay Johnson. It should be great over there in Baltimore. And I'm looking forward to it in the playoffs. We'll see what they can do this year. Alrighty, here at number 2, these are kind of expected picks for you guys to call now if you've been keeping up with these videos. The Chiefs are my number 2 team here, even though they are undefeated. They're playing good ball, but again, I will keep reiterating this. Offensively and defensively, their grades just are not better than the Detroit Lions. Whoever they play, it's always a tough game for them. It's always down to the wire. I really want them to show out and show how great they can be and take away a game. They really haven't done it too much this year. I think they've only had 2 times where they've scored more to win by more than a touchdown. So again, it is what it is, but the Chiefs are 8-0. I can't knock on them. I can't have them out of the top 5 because of their lack of great wins against certain teams because they keep winning. But the Chiefs will continue to be at number 2 until they can show me that they can topple teams like the Lions have been. And of course, keeping the longevity of keeping these wins. Once they hit their first loss, it's going to be pretty interesting to see who it's against. Because as we've always seen, sometimes the Chiefs just lose to some bad teams on a bad week. But for this week, they do have the Denver Broncos. This is possibly one of those weeks where they could lose. And if they lose against the Denver Broncos, I really won't knock them too bad because Denver has a good up-and-coming team. But then again, I think the Chiefs should still win this game. It's going to be close, of course, as we always seen. But how close? And of course, here at number 1, got my Detroit Lions at number 1 for the 4th straight week. I started them off at 3, guys, in week 5, as you can see there on the graphic. And now they're number 1, and they've been number 1. They've just been playing great football, whether they're playing against bad teams and killing them horribly or playing against good teams and winning still by a good margin. Again, their biggest test is going to be in the NFC North against their rivals in the Vikings, Packers, and Bears. Oh my. But really, the Lions just keep continuing to win, keep showing me that they are a great team. Like I said, they're the best team in the NFL because of the load management that they've kind of been doing. They run the ball a lot with a two-headed monster, and both of those guys really don't get above 60% of the carries on multiple games back to back. They really kind of trade off each game, and I think that's great because it keeps both of them as fresh as possible. It's like keeping your car and your tires rotated. It just keeps the longevity going. And that's what the Lions do. They run the clock out, they score quickly. Their defense is off the field most of the time because of great stops. So again, this team is just doing exactly what you want the number one team in the NFL to do. They're just playing great football, and I hope it continues. I think it will going into these next few weeks for sure. But again, we'll have to wait and see as they had the early bye week how this team will fend going in for another 10 straight games. So it's going to be interesting to watch. But again, I think it's always interesting to watch the Lions. And there you go, guys. That is my power rankings here for this week. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Hit the like button if you agree with the majority of them. If not, again, comment down below on where you think I went wrong. But as of now, I think I'm doing pretty good. So if you think otherwise, just let me know. Other than that, go ahead and go down into the link for our Discord. If you want to talk football, fantasy, about the games, live, anything like that, we're there to talk football all the time. Me, Adrian, and Reed will try to get back to you as quickly as possible if there's any pending questions or just good conversation. So other than that, guys, enjoy the game tonight on Thursday Night Football. It should be a great one between the Ravens and Bengals. I'm looking forward to it. I know Adrian and Reed are too. So again, let me know down in the comments what you think of these videos. Other than that, guys, that is going to be my power rankings for Week 10. I hope you liked the update on how these teams have done the past 6 weeks. Let me know down in the comments if you like these visuals more or if you want me to go back to the old ones. So other than that, guys, as we always say, keep on grinding.